All right, peace to you, men. How are you? And good evening to you. Today I want to speak about the wisdom behind the scriptural doctrine of abstaining, why you should abstain before marriage, why you should refrain from engaging in any sexual activities before marriage, and what is the benefit for you when you do that. Because I think if of the number of the sins that have really piled high in our society and in this particular nation. By the way, I'm sorry if the lighting is really bad. I'm right now driving around at nighttime making this video, so I guess you'll catch little glimpses of me when I drive by a street light. But as I was saying, so the modern world, of all of their sins that have piled high, I think the number one sin that people indulge in nowadays, and it's just taken as a given, it's not only promoted, but it is the society. Like, not everybody engages in drugs, not everybody engages in excessive drinking or interest taking or whatever, but almost everybody by and large engages in unlawful sexual activity. Why is this against your best interest? Specifically, if you're looking for a companion, if you're looking for somebody to marry and have a good quality of life with. Well, aside from some of the obvious practical reasons, like when you're sleeping with somebody, there may be a chance you'll have an unwanted pregnancy, produce bastard children, and just kind of ruin their life and ruin your life. But on top of that, what else happens? And the one thing you need to keep in mind is that when let's say you're talking to a believing woman, right, and you're very interested in her, and you are engaged in sexual activity with her, even not a believing woman, let's say you're talking to a woman and you're engaged in sexual activity with her, you are not going to be able to make clear judgments regarding that woman. Now, this is a common pattern that I see over and over and over in the modern world. What people do, they get into relationships, they yoke themselves up with people that are fundamentally not right for them, fundamentally doctrinally different. An inclined person with a disinclined person. One person wants one thing with his life, the other person wants another thing with their life, and their goals do not meet eye to eye, but they're engaged in sexual relations. And what does that do? That creates desperation in the mind of both the man and the woman, especially the man. The man, he can't think clearly when he's engaging in sexual activity with the woman, and that is why you refrain before marriage. Refrain until marriage, because a lot of people, they will continually keep a disastrous and just fundamentally failed relationship going because they're attached to the sex and they're not thinking properly. And I don't care how tough and how smart and how wise you think you are, men do not think properly when it comes to sex. They don't. You're overridden by your passions and your emotions, and it's normal, it's natural, it's just it's something that comes with being a man. That is why you need to refrain yourself before you enter into any kind of relationship until you are married, because it's gonna pervert and cloud your sense of judgment. I'll give you an example between my wife and I, or the example of my wife and I. My wife and I, we did everything Quranically. We did everything according to the scriptures. When we met each other online and started talking to each other, there was no sexual relation, never once, no immorality whatsoever. It was just talking. And what did that do? That gave me a sound mind and a sound reasoning heart on how to deal with her. You know, I had so much pleasure just talking to my wife, or the woman who would eventually become my wife, just talking to her, just having a heart-to-heart, opening myself up to her, her opening herself up to me, us talking about our life, our beliefs, our goals, where we want to be, what she's looking for in a husband, what I'm looking for in a wife. It just, more than anybody I've ever talked to before, anybody I've dealt with in any way, I have just enjoyed her presence, her company. I remember her and I both, every single day, we would just be waiting for our phone to be filled with messages from each other, or waiting for that video call to happen, or waiting for that voice call to happen, just enjoying talking to each other. That is a very, very good sign that person is right for you and you should be with them. Because there's nothing I'm getting from her other than who she is, her personality, and there's nothing she's getting from me other than who I am, my personality, my character, my goals, my beliefs, and we just love each other so much. And that kind of refraining from the sexual impulse, I believe it allowed us to both make the wise decision of who we're going to marry. We're with each other for life, if God wills. If God wills, I really believe that's my woman for life, nobody else. And we have something so special, and I wish that all the believers could enjoy this, all the righteous believers, what we have, because, you know, she's the kind of woman, I love her so much that if God took her tonight, I don't want any other woman at all. I'm gonna remain single for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be her husband till I join her in the grave, because I just perhaps I could help somebody out. If a sister needs help, totally fine. But women out there, they're gonna have to take me as brothers. This is the only woman I ever want to be with, and I have such a happy and successful marriage, I think largely and in part because of the fact that I refrained from any sexual activity, and so did she. We feared God too much, and that allowed us to judge each other's character. We were getting nothing from each other, but we wanted to spend all of our time talking to one another. Why is that? Because our hearts are similar, our souls are similar. We are upon the same tremendous tradition. And that is why I recommend you guys, like I'm saying this over and over, I'm repeating it like a broken record, but you need to abstain. You need to hold yourself back from doing these things which are fundamentally harmful to you. They are bad for you. They cloud your judgment. They should be saved. That level of closest intimacy, it should be saved for the in the marital contract. Let's say a lot of people, they end up in relationships with another person, let's say a man with a woman or a woman with a man, and they actually fundamentally dislike that person. And like I said before, they're at odds with them, with where they want to go with their life. They're at odds with the goals that are in their minds. They're conflicting with each other, but they continue on in that relationship because they're not thinking properly with the sexual relation. Me, when I dealt with my wife before I married her, I was thinking properly. All I had with her was talking, texting, video chatting, and the one time we met each other in person before we married. That was it. And I knew that this woman was right for me because I just, at that time, I appreciated the friendship. I loved talking to her so much. And don't catch me on my words. Don't be like, oh, well, Lee, don't you say that you shouldn't be friends with women? Yeah, you shouldn't be friends with women if that's the only thing that you have in mind for them. If you're not interested in them, they're not interested in you, but you're just being friends, there's no point in that. But if you're interested in marrying the person, if there is that kind of an attraction there, then there is obviously a place for friendship. That's totally fine. You can be friends leading up to that point. What I'm against is men and women being friends just for the sake of being friends. Friends is always leading to something, friendship between men and women. And when I was just friends with my wife at the time, when I was getting to know her, I just genuinely appreciated her company. I had nothing but talking to her, just her personality, my personality, her goals, my goals, and we just had a heart to heart, and that allowed me to make the right decision on marrying her, because I was not, my judgment was not clouded with anything. I was just purely judging her off of her character and off of who she was, and she impressed me every single time. Every single part of her always impressed me. So that is what I'll recommend to you guys, and that is the wisdom behind the scriptural doctrine of refraining, because men do not think properly when it comes to sex. You have to follow the Quranic guidelines if you want to have a successful marriage or relationship, and that's something I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the fact that there are many people in their late 20s, 30s, they have these awful marriages, two people yoked to each other that fundamentally should not be with one another, and I'm 20 years old with a very happy marriage, and I think it's because I followed the Quranic doctrine and so did she. We fear God too much and we followed the law. We kept everything upright and moral and good when we were dealing with each other, and we still keep things moral and upright and good. We followed the Quranic law, and now we are reaping the benefit of that decision that we made. So that is what I'll recommend to you guys. Refrain from having sexual relationships because it does not allow you to judge the person properly. Your judgment starts to get clouded. I mean, think about it this way. Maybe some of you out there, some of you guys out there, you have a past. Maybe you did things you were not supposed to. You were with women you were not supposed to. Just tell me, reflect on that experience. And I'm not attacking you for it. If you've repented and made yourself clean, if you behave uprightly now and you do not engage in that immoral activity, then you're totally fine. As far as my understanding of the Quran, you're forgiven. I'm not attacking you for it, but just reflect back on those experiences. If you were engaging in some kind of sexual activity that you're not supposed to, that was beyond the limits of marriage, and let's say you were in a relationship with a woman that you didn't like, tell me, would you honestly have tolerated that woman for as long as you did and dealt with her for as long as you did if it wasn't for the sexual relation? Let's say all you had was her personality and her character. Would you be as interested in her? Probably not, right? This is something that lures people in and it makes you a slave. So that is why refrain and be abstinent, so you can have a wise head on your shoulders and you can deal with these women accordingly. And that is the wisdom behind the scriptural doctrine. Refrain yourself, because it is not only good for her, but it is good for you as well. God understands these things. God knows all of this. God knows what is in man's nature. God knows what man is inclined towards. God knows what makes man weak. And historically, what are the things that has always made man weak? Money, fame, and probably even more than all of that is women and the sexual gratification and desire. That has always made man weak historically, and that is why it doesn't make you weak if you do it within the confines of marriage, but if you do it before that, it makes you weak because it opens you up to manipulation and being yoked up with a person that you are, like I said, fundamentally not supposed to be with. So anyways, men, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing, and yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum, men. My name is Walid Naeem, and I have dedicated my entire life towards spreading the truth about the words of God. And I don't know about you, but personally, I have grown sick and tired of all these mainstream religions, and specifically the mosques, which have utterly failed us. I'm fed up with them placing the words of man, specifically their fabricated hadiths, at a higher authority than God's holy scriptures, their lack of knowledge about conspiracy facts and realpolitik, and their complete ignorance of the true nature of our earth. I've had enough of their compromise, their weakness, their lame sermons which put people to sleep, their virtue signaling, their fear of facing any real persecution, and their willingness to let the quote-unquote secular atheist utterly trample over them. The atheists own all of the educational boards and teach their propaganda to every so-called Muslim and quote-unquote non-Muslim child here in the West. And now with the Toyota Corolla hoax, the atheist has successfully broken apart our communities and made us utter slaves to their government. Our so-called quote-unquote Muslim sons are a bunch of wannabe hood rat gangsters who vape, drink, smoke weed, and party like animals. And our so-called quote-unquote Muslim daughters are not much different. They have no interest in hearing about the Word of God. They are all too busy YOLOing. This has all happened while the imams have been living very comfortably off of the hard-earned money of their community members in the donation bins. As stated before, I personally am completely fed up with this. The mosques have had all of the support, funding, enfranchisement, and time of our communities and have produced absolutely nothing. The atheist has made the so-called quote-unquote Muslim man his bitch. He has steamrolled him in every way possible. That is why I created Eyes Wide Open. This channel exists as a call to action for all of those strong believing men who trust in their Lord fully and refuse to compromise the Quran. It is time the true sons of Adam and the inheritors of the tremendous tradition, in other words, the true Quranic Muslims, to set up something for themselves and fearlessly stand up against the madness that is going on in the world. What you see with my channel right now is only the beginning. These short videos I make in my car are all that I have time for right now, working a full-time job. I scribble these together while at work and make these videos while running errands. But you ain't seen nothing yet. If God should will, I have so much more in store for Eyes Wide Open. I want this to be a platform for the believers. Just a couple of things I have planned for this channel is, firstly, creating scholarly books, documentaries, and essays to arm you guys with the intellectual firepower for dealing with all of our enemies. Secondly, I would like Eyes Wide Open to be a center for heavy activism, public and street preaching, going to City Hall, organizing protests, knocking doors, going to baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, and other major sporting events and preaching to the people leaving the stadium, going to the totally failed mosques, synagogues, and churches and debating with their religious leaders, going to universities and debating the quote-unquote secular professors on their laughable so-called science, and much more. It's time the believers start to fight back and shake the cage of this disgusting system. My goal is to create a base for the believers. I want people to know of our name, that there are dedicated, zealous, and studious men who do not compromise the Word of God, and we are ready to take action. If we keep waiting for our mosque to do something about the real problems of this world, then we will be waiting until Judgment Day. We need to create something now from the ground up. With that being said, may God bless us in all of our endeavors and guide us every step of the way. If this sounds like something you are interested in, and if you want to be a part of the movement, then you can help me out. My Patreon and PayPal are linked in the description of every video. And, God willing, if enough generous believers decide to fund this platform, then I can quit my full-time job and look for something part-time, or, even better than that, leave employment completely, which will give me more hours in the day to do this work. I do not care to be rich. All of that stuff is vanity anyways. But the fact of the matter is, my wife and I need to eat and have a roof over our heads. So, if you wish to support the cause, then I thank you sincerely for that and promise to fight with might and main in the cause of God for the believers. If you are not able to, hey, then I totally understand. Find somebody else who needs that money and give it to them. Give it out of fear of your Lord and in dread of that great and terrible day, which is coming to all of us. For all of the believers out there, the brothers and sisters who follow hard upon the truth, all I can say is much love to each and every one of you. May God reward you in this life and the hereafter. Praise goes to God alone. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace.